morning. My name is Lon Wiegand. I'm the Deputy Special Agent in charge of Homeland Security Investigations here in Phoenix, Arizona, in the state of Arizona. With me as well is my colleagues from HSI Yuma, Homeland Security Investigations Yuma office. In April of this year, Homeland Security Investigations out of our Yuma office received information regarding a potential human trafficking case. Some undercover activity had been taking place at a number of massage parlors after receiving numerous complaints and tips related to these parlors, including sexual acts in exchange for money. Based on the information received and through investigative techniques, it was determined that only Asian females were employed at these massage parlors and that the females may be victims of human trafficking and potential forced labor. At that point, a joint federal and state investigation was initiated with the Lake Havasu City Police Department and the Bullhead City Police Department to determine if, in fact, the businesses were violating any human trafficking laws or other laws. As the investigation progressed, 7 massage parlors in question offered sexual acts for the exchange of money to undercover agents. These businesses offered their services in cash only. Agents reported that each of the businesses had only 1 or 2 Asian females working at a time. HSI further learned that Asian females working in some of these massage parlors were instructed to live and work in the businesses and that their movements were extremely restricted. In addition to having to remain in the businesses, these women worked in the massage parlors from the time it opened to the time it closed, 7 days a week, in excess of 12 hours a day. Special agents also reported that the conditions in the establishments were deplorable, with low lighting, filth, and unsanitary conditions. The women's only source of income were the tips they received while performing the massages and sexual acts. According to the Asian females at 2 of these businesses, they were moved to different locations approximately once a week by the female boss, and they did not know the future locations. In addition, the female boss and her husband would come by to the massage parlors unannounced at various times to pick up the money that was made. These women were only allowed to go from their hotel rooms to the businesses and back on a daily basis. As a result, and in response, last Thursday, September 20th, in a coordinated effort between HSI, Lake Havasu City Police Department, and Bullhead City Police Department, officers and agents executed 10 search warrants, arrested 3 Chinese nationals and 5 U.S. citizens, and successfully rescued 2 victims of human trafficking forced labor. The breakdown of those search warrants were: in Lake Havasu City, 3 businesses and 1 residential location were searched. In Bullhead City, 4 businesses and 2 residential locations were searched. As this is an ongoing investigation, information is limited, but we can say that the defendants have been charged with violations of state law regarding conspiracy to commit sex trafficking, trafficking of persons for forced labor or other services, unlawfully obtaining labor and or services, and money laundering, procuring or placing persons in a house of prostitution, and operating a house of prostitution. In addition to the search warrants, there were items seized in excess, currency in excess of $128,000 and $30,000 in gold and gold coins and jewelry. With respect to the victims, HSI and our partners with the state and local agencies ensure a victim-based approach, and for their privacy and security, we want to protect those victims and their identities. So we cannot comment further, but know that they are now safe and being cared for. Before I wrap up, I'd like to thank our partners with Lake Havasu City and Bullhead City, the officers in those organizations, the officers within HSI made an impact on the community, with the activities that were taking place at the massage parlors and in the rescue of the victims that took place. Understand that all defendants are considered innocent until proven guilty. With the rescue of the victims, we understand that 2 individuals now are safe and unharmed and will be able to recover from this activity. I'd like to turn it over to Chief Doyle with the Lake Havasu City Police Department for any comments.
Hello, I'm Chief Dan Doyle, Lake Havasu City Police Department, and welcome to Lake Havasu City. I'm glad all of you could be here. I would be remiss if I didn't start off with thanking the gentlemen that were specifically responsible for initiating this investigation and putting a lot of hard work into it. And that is my Special Investigations Unit, and I do want to give special thanks to Lieutenant Joe Harrell, who helped head up this investigation, Sergeant Jake Beckadall, Detective Lauren Jackson, our lead investigator on this, Detective Ryan Huerta, and Detective Kyle Ridgway. They put in a lot of hard effort in the last 5 months to bring this investigation to a conclusion. I also want to thank our local advocacy center, Haven, which made their resources available to us. Also a big thank you to Chief Brian Williamson of the Bullhead City Police Department, who will be speaking in a few moments. And a big thanks to their resources in jumping into this investigation with us. Also the Mojave County Attorney's Office, which has participated with this and have been in this investigation with us all along. And a big thank you to HSI and the Yuma office, that from the moment we reached out to them for our need for additional resources and everything available to them, they jumped into this investigation, came in, and it was a great example of a federal and local partnership and collaboration. This operation originated from a tip that we received from our local citizens of suspicious activity occurring at one of these locations. This is a great example of see something, say something. We had some local citizens that thought something was suspicious. They reported it to us, and upon following up on it, it launched into an effort that has resulted into search warrants across 2 cities, as well as federal involvement. And I would encourage any citizen out there, when you see something suspicious, please report it to us. Let us get involved. Let us determine if there is criminal activity involved. I also want to make the statement that for many years now, Lake Havasu City Police Department has aggressively pursued human trafficking, prostitution, and those that are facilitating prostitution and human trafficking. We will continue to aggressively pursue it, the people in it, the Johns that are paying, and anybody that is involved. We have been surveilling these locations since May. We know who is coming, we know who is going, and we still have more follow-up to do in this investigation. With that, I do want to turn it over to Chief Brian Williamson, but again, I want to thank everybody that's involved in this. We do have a lot more work ahead of us, and we are going to be aggressively pursuing more. Thank you. Chief Williamson.
Good morning, Brian Williamson, Chief of Police, Bullhead City Police Department. I certainly would like to echo Chief Doyle's sentiments and all the thanks that he gave. You have seen throughout many operations that the Bullhead City Police Department and the Lake Havasu City Police Department constantly partner on issues that affect one or both of our communities. Neither one of us have enough resources to get everything done by ourselves, so we're constant partners. This is another example of that. We did get help, a lot of help and assistance from HSI. They were fantastic. We could not have done this without them. And Chief Doyle's right. This started from a tip in Lake Havasu and then brought us all the way up to Bullhead City to get involved in this case. It is a great example of what citizens can do in their communities, to not just think the police can handle everything. If you see something, say something, and then we usually are able to take it from there, coordinate with our partners, and make a big impact. The other part of this that I would like to touch on is often these types of crimes, sexual crimes, are considered victimless crimes. this should be a true example that that's absolutely not true. There are victims along the way. And in this case, there were people that were being forced into these situations. And in my experience, that's the case with many, many sexual crimes. And I echo Chief Doyle's sentiments. We will continue to look into these operations. We will continue to look into sex crimes and those involved on all sides of sex crimes, and we will continue to work with our partners to aggressively pursue all of these crimes. And as a short recap, you can see how this turned, it went from a public nuisance really to people being rescued from forced servitude, which then has a federal nexus for our Homeland Security. So these are not problems to be ignored, and I think I can speak for all of the law enforcement officials today when I say we will not ignore these issues. Thank you.
That concludes the formal comments. I'm available for questions, or my partners are available for any questions that you might have relative to this investigation. Yes, ma'am.
Kat Smith with the Bee. Can you release the names of the businesses at this time where you executed the raids or the search warrants?
We can have those provided to you after the press.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Brandon Messick with today's News Herald. Is there any connection to organized crime in this case?
So, from the HSI perspective, we consider these transnational criminal organizations. They're moving individuals from foreign destinations into the United States for sex trafficking related violations. So we see that as a true transnational criminal organization. Sir?
Julio from Telemundo. Do you know if the victims are immigrants or locals or any information on that?
So the two victims, I can tell you, are not U.S. born. Sir?
How were the victims forced into their roles in this operation?
So all trafficking victims are forced into the activity by the targets in the investigation. They're made to do certain things, either because they will not receive some benefit that they were entitled to. An individual, for instance, would come into the U.S., be told you are not going to be authorized to move on to another business or get some benefit until you do X, Y, or Z. So that's the forced aspect of the movement of the individuals into the U.S. Until they complete that task, which is often prolonged. If it's you owe a certain amount of money because we moved you from a foreign destination into the U.S., that takes time to pay off, and it's prolonged based on the target's timeline. And really they're holding those individuals, and never will that individual end up fulfilling that requirement. Yes?
One more question. The people who had paid for this, the sexual acts, will they be investigated too in charges for soliciting prostitution?
So at the time of the search warrants, there were individuals that were arrested that were solicited.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Robert with Havasu Scanner Feed. So with regards to just Havasu alone, that's my interest. Is this involving housing that were raided or just strictly businesses?
So the residential locations were that of the individuals that were conducting the activity and not of any other person. So we focus on the businesses and the residences associated with the main targets of the investigation. Sir?
Were any of the suspects either owners or managers at the hotels at which these women were staying?
Not to my knowledge, no. All right, if there's no further questions, I thank you very much for your time. I thank the partners in the room, and have a nice day.